It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
Baby step number 2. Pay off all debt. I'm going to use the rabbit ears for all, except the house, using the debt snowball.
Now, I think, again, a lot of folks out there listening, a lot of the folks in different parts of the country, they might not know what the debt snowball is. And that's something that Davis, I don't think he invented it, but something he's certainly made famous.
Well,
right?
I think it's interesting because this is considered controversial in the fact that, because Dave is a little contrarian in the fact that he says, because most people, I think, when they think about it analytically, they would say line up all of your debts by interest rate that you're paying. Yep. Highest to the top to lowest at the bottom.
No matter the amount.
No matter the amount. Dave says, wait a minute. We need some wins because we're focusing on the behavior. Right. Remember, it's that whole 80%. It's the behavior over the academics. He says, line up your debts, smallest to biggest. And his thought process is as you start that snowball, think about what happens with a snowball. It starts off very small, but as it rolls, it gets bigger and bigger. He's hoping after you take a win on paying off that $1,000 debt or that $1,500 debt, you go get energized to keep that behavior and turn it into a habit. So once again, you're turning negative behaviors into positive habits that will help you moving forward.
And the picture of a snowball is by the time you get to the big stuff, but by the time you get to the large stuff, your snowballs gain some momentum. You actually have the staying power to be able to knock that out.
And I want to give some stats because I think Dave, this is why he's so successful, is that, and I'll go ahead and concede this. I tell when we have a prospect that come to us with spending issues, I'll say, you got to quit using the credit card. You got to start watching what you're spending. They're like, yeah, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course, I got it, yeah.
Then they find out they take financial peace at their local church. They come in, Brian, I got to quit using these credit cards.
They're on fire for it.
And I'm like, we have been having meetings about this behavior, and yet you go and take one or two things from financial peace and you agree. So Dave gets it, that debt can definitely be quicksand that can pull you in. And here's some stats. We pulled this from USA Today. Listen to this. The average income in the United States, the household income, this is not per person, this is household, is $60,336.
Okay, so put that number in the back of your mind.
60 grand
average,
is income.
Average household, 60,000.
Average credit card for those that have it. Because I gave a stat, and I thought this was interesting because intern Daniel pulled this. I did a stat on one of our most recent calculation shows where the average credit card balance was around $6,000. Right. What I did not know, and he kind of corrected me on this, that was across the population. So there's a lot of people like me and you that do not carry credit card balances. So we're actually skewing that number down. Right. If you base this data off of those who have this type of debt, meaning they're not paying it off a month, average credit card debt is actually $16,883. So 17 grand right there. Almost 20% of a 60 grand salary. That's horrifying. Average auto loan for those that have auto debt, once again, because we want to look at people who are carrying debt, is $29,539. Almost 50% of the average American household income is covered by, auto debt. Average student loan debt for those that have student loan debt is $50,626. And then average mortgage for those that have mortgages is $182,000. It is no wonder that Dave is an advocate for debt is horrible because for the lion's share of the population, they can't get out of this thing. This thing is a prison for them, and they can't figure out how to get out of it.
So getting out of debt is obviously something that would make sense and something you should do. So that's why Dave makes it number 2, get to 1,000 and pay off all debt.
So why? Because go ahead and pull it up because this is where the Money Guy financial order of operations does vary. I agree. Credit card debt is disastrous. The average credit card interest rate right now is 17.76. But as you guys can see, we're going to start having some differences from the baby steps. And the number 2 is we have get that employer match.
That's
now,
right.
we thought long and hard. Hear me out on this, and we're going to have an illustration that shows our point. No doubt, credit card debt at 17.76 is a losing proposition. You have basically turned compounding interest on its ear where it's working against you. But there is a caveat. Every one of you guys, especially my young listeners, hear me out on this. You get to go start working a job. It's very likely your employer will offer you a retirement plan, which the most popular funding mechanism is dollar for dollar up to 3% that you contribute. So if you put 3% into your retirement plan, your employer is going to put 3% on your behalf. That is 100% rate of return.
I mean, I can't think of other investments that lock in 100% right out of the get-go. Immediately, you're doubling your money.
And I want to take it a step further. Some of you that are worried, yes, but I need that money to pay down the debt. Do this for me. I want most young people, I think that you ought to do Roth choices. You ought to do a Roth 401k if you're in a low tax bracket so that money grows completely tax-free. However, if you're one of these people that says, I need every dollar, if you take a tax deduction through a traditional 401k funding where you're lowering your income, you'll actually have it will offset because the government's going to fund probably 20 to 30% of your contribution through tax savings. It doesn't hurt you that full 3%.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, there's added benefits plus the 100% rate of return. It's pretty powerful. But we wanted to create an illustration so you can kind of see how this all works for you.
Yeah, we want you to see how powerful it is. Because again, 17.76% credit card interest is scary and it's terrifying and it's bad and it's punitive. But it pales in comparison to a 100% rate of return when you think about an employer match.
It's free money, really is.
You said you want to do a case study, right? So we said, how big of a deal is an employer match? So let's just do an example. Let's say that you make $50,000 per year, and just like you said, you get a 3% match from your employer. So you put in 3%, your employer puts in 3%. So you and your employer each contribute $125 a month. And let's just say that your pay doesn't change, your savings doesn't change, and you do that for the next 30 years. You earn 8% on average for the next 30 years, putting in just 3% of your salary.
That's because some of y'all said my 20-year-old's making 10, my 30-year-old's making 9, and my 40-year-old's making 8. It was too hot, so we decided to simplify it for this one illustration.
We'll cool it on down.
8% for everybody.
So what you'll notice is that after 30 years of you contributing 3%, you will have put in $45,000. That's how much you've put in. Well, immediately, because your employer is doing a dollar-for-dollar match on your contributions, your employer has also put in $45,000. So out of the gate, you've doubled your money. You have doubled your money. But this is what I'm doing with my Billy Mays. But wait, there's more.
There's more.
This is where it gets really exciting. If you were to actually invest that money for 30 years and earn 8%,
look at that.
$282,000.
That's the power of your army of dollar bills right there.
That's just the interest. If you look at the total account value, the $45,000 that you put in has turned into $373,000.
One of the things I thought was interesting, so you're really only out of pocket the $1,500 a year. So $1,500 times 30 years is the $45,000. It's worth $372. Do the math on that, and you'll see that you've only contributed 12%. The other 88%, which I don't make that up because I always talk about 88 times over for my 20-year-old investors. Here's 88% of the growth is coming from your employer plus the growth of the assets. Pretty powerful stuff.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
So so now we know that you need to be doing first order of operations is after you get the basics covered. Instead of paying off the credit card, I want you to get the free money from your employer.
Right.
But what's the next step? I'm willing to go ahead and concede it is just like Dave, where it's number 3. It's step number 3 for our order of operations is pay off credit cards and high interest debt.
Yep.
Now I want to talk about credit cards first because I know this is something that a lot of you guys, that we don't forbid credit cards completely.
Right.
But I want to take this is a binary decision. And I think this is something that a lot of our Dave Ramsey fans that also drink from the fountain of the Money Guy show, you pick on us because we even have friends that have done. Steve Stewart, he picks on us all the time about credit cards. I think that you guys know if you ever have credit card debt that you can't pay off, meaning credit cards are for rewards and benefits. It's not for borrowing money. So if you are carrying a balance, that's no-go land. You need to change your behavior 100%. Right there. Credit card debt should never exist. It's a fantasy. It's not something that you ever, and that's why there's a great slide that Bo and I we want to put a visual in your head so that you never run into this problem with your personal life.
I don't know that I'd say we wanted to put this visual.
So here's what I want you to know. Credit card debt should be like unicorns and dragons. It's something you should definitely read about, hear about, but it's something you never actually see for yourself because you're not going to experience this.
That's right. You just don't have, it's not even in your vocabulary to carry credit card debt. It is fictional. It is not real. It does not exist.
And by the way, that is Bo looking like a dragon.
A a pretty dashing dragon, I might say.
And then that is me dressed up as Jon Snow, but actually looking more like Howard Stern dressed up like Jon Snow. So it's always a classic. The team told me they were thinking about putting a unicorn,
a little horn
on me.
That would have been
but
awesome.
It is, I'm just telling you that all of you guys out there in podcast world, go out to YouTube and you might be surprised at some of the data you get to see on the visual side of things.
Okay,
Now,
so that's credit card debt, but you added something onto yours, Brian. You said pay off all credit card debt and other high interest debt, right?
Because we've done some shows where we talk about, because we know debt doesn't come in just the form of credit card debt and that's it. There's also student loans. There's also auto loans. And there's your mortgage debt, which we'll get to later. But how do you figure out when to pay down the student loans and the auto loans? So we actually created an illustration on that. We covered this in a recent show on when you should invest versus pay down debt. It seemed crazy not to cover this. We built a lot of this, especially with student loan debts, because I know there's a vast difference between a student loan that's at 3% versus a student loan that's at 6.8%, which is where federal loans are right now. So we were like, we've got to give some people some tools here. So what we came up with is that recognize there's this thing called equity risk premium. It's a concept where you're taking a risk and you're expecting a reward for taking that additional risk by investing in the financial markets. So it's typically somewhere between 3.5% to 5.5%. Historically, we chose a conservative 4%. So you just can take 4% off of the ages that we expect. So for 20-year-olds, it's 10%. So it's 6%. You can see 6% for 20 to 29-year-olds. 5% for 30 to 39-year-olds, and then 4% for 40 to 49-year-olds.
So that's I'm going to paraphrase exactly what you said. If you're in your 20s and your interest rate is above 6%, you should probably prioritize paying off that student loan debt. If you're in your 30s and it's over 5%, you should probably prioritize. If you're in your 40s and it's over 4%, you should probably prioritize. If your student loan interest rates are lower than that, your army of dollar bills might be better deployed to doing something different.
No doubt. So, I mean, I know it's contrarian to what Dave talks about, but get that free money from your employer and then start attacking that debt.
Love it.
Car loans, by the way, we put this on there 23.8. We want you putting down 20% if you can't pay 100. Obviously, the ideal thing is to pay 100% cash for your cars. But if you can't, because I understand sometimes you need dependable transportation, so you have to work with some financing, 20% down, 3 years or less. So that way you're not buying too much and faking your lifestyle. And it should be no more than 8% of your income. If you have 2 cars in your household, it's still 8% of your income.
Total income. That's exactly right.
So pay attention to that with the car loans.
Love it.
Baby step number 3.
Dave says that in baby step number 3, you should save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund.
This is what I thought. Remember going back to that research where we showed 58% of Americans don't have $1,000. Yep. So we pulled a stat. I thought this was kind of interesting. I mean, we'll go ahead and show you the money guy, what our thoughts is, because it's not much variation from what Dave. We think you need to determine how big of an emergency reserve you need.
That's right.
I'll tell you, guidance we've always given is 3 to 6 months, very similar to Dave's. The only thing that we kind of vary on is that we try to give you a little more guidance on how do you determine if you're 3 months versus 6 months. It really depends on how long you think it would take to replace your job.
That's exactly right.
So if you're a person you have a lot of people relying on you, you're in a very specialized career, it might need to be 6 months. Now, if you're a person that's retiring in the next 2 to 3 years, your cash reserves might be substantially bigger than 3 to 6 months. It actually might be 18 months to 36 months. So you're getting close to 3 years of cash reserves. So if you have any type of hiccups while you're making that transition from saver to consumer, you're going to be in good shape.
You also need to factor in what kind of income household are you? Are you a dual income household? Is there a big disparity in the earning spouses? Depending on what the answer to that is, might have you lean towards 3 months or towards 6 months. But we think your emergency fund should be specialized to your specific situation.
No doubt. But look at this slide on just cash reserves habits.
Did you find this terrifying just a little bit?
Well, at first, here's the thing. When I first, because we didn't see it in this beautiful, intern Daniel put it in this pie chart. We just saw the raw data, and I have the raw data here, and I was like, that doesn't add up to 58%. There's no way this works. But I was like, whoa, wait a minute. It does work, because just follow us this. 28% have no savings. Those are people highly susceptible to payday loans,
paycheck
probably.
to paycheck. Yep.
Then 25% have less than 3 months. Well, less than 3 months, that could be $1. That could be $50. It could be definitely less than $1,000. So I've already added 28 to the 25. We're at 53. I'm like, that still doesn't equal 58% like the survey. Well, then you see that sliver over there. There's 12% that has. I don't know.
I don't get
that. Means they don't have anything. Can we just agree to that?
Yeah,
I mean, if you say I don't know, it's either you're rude that you don't want to answer the survey, or you're not interested, or you just don't have the money and you don't want to admit it.
But have you ever seen someone who was embarrassed about admitting, oh, yeah, I've got a rainy day fund, and it's 3 to 6 months? I'm like, no one's ever embarrassed to share that kind of information.
So, and then we'll close out the graph. 18% had 6 months, and then obviously 17% were somewhere between that 3 to 5 months.
So, I think we and Dave would both align. If it should be somewhere between 3 to 6 months, or if you're retired, it should be even more. There's really only, 5? Does that do my math right? 35% of folks actually fall in there.
Yeah.
That should be improved upon. And if you're listening to the show, you should improve upon that.
And remember, everything that you need, that you're thinking about, if you have an upcoming purchase in the next 3 to 5 years for new cars, family vacations, a business investment, that stuff's going to go on top of the 3 to 6 months that you need. So cash reserves should not be something that's at play, that's that's subject to market fluctuations and market risks. That's something you need to be locking it down.
Now, Brian, I'm so excited. If you're out there listening on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, we actually live stream these on YouTube, on Facebook, and we have a live chat going. I got to say, Brian, the people in the chat, we're not getting beaten up so far. So it sounds like
we haven't upset the Ramsey family yet.
The Ramseyites just yet.
That's great.
We have.